Yo, sometimes life calls for a change. Not fake, just different. It'll show you a different way. And right now, I'm on to my different way. I can promise you this is the same Spann, but the reporting is over. I'd like to welcome you to the Mr. Spann official podcast. Let's go. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Mr. Spann official podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Spann, and this is episode number 35 of the show. And yeah, man, we are coming here a little bit early, man. Normally, I don't necessarily like broadcast on like early Saturday evenings and shit, but I got a special occasion. I got something we celebrating here in the family, man, and you know there's an event that I got to go to, so let me get this on up out the way. You know what I'm saying? Not that I'm just treating y'all like y'all just something to do, but I'm just saying I got some things with my family that I got to do, in which case I got to get this show in early. But the reason why I got to get this show in right now is because later on I'm going to be out with my daughter, who is celebrating her 21st birthday. Yeah, man, my baby girl is 21 years old. Her birthday was actually Tuesday earlier this week. And yeah, man, I ain't ready for this shit, man. I am not ready to have a grown ass adult daughter, man. I'm really not. One of the things that I'm really trying to take solace in is that, like, despite the fact, like, and I don't want to sound like final, what's the word that I'm looking for here? I don't want to sound like this is the end of the, the father-daughter relationship or anything like that. Not none of it at all. But this is a transition. Right. This is a transition for both me and my daughter. And this is something that I'm going to have to I'm understanding this is me. And I got to work through my feelings about having a grown ass daughter out here, man. Real talk. Especially considering, like some of the ways in which she's going to have to interact with dudes out here in the world, man. I worry about that. I worry about that quite a bit. Right. And so, yeah, man, I've got some I'm a little queasy about this. Now, people know her daddy is, locked and loaded, and she's told, little dude she was dealing with her daddy crazy. So, I mean, maybe, maybe that kind of that maybe helps a little bit in my favor. But yeah, man, yeah, I'm still just kind of shocked by the whole thing of it. It's been creeping up on me for a nice little bit, and I'm still like coming to grips with it. Yeah, when I first started podcasting, man, just think about this for a second, man. Before, like, around the time many of you may have even heard my voice when I first started podcasting, man, which was about 13 years ago. My daughter was 8. Right? My daughter was like in like second, third grade, something like that. Like she was like a real young kid now. And like, so now I have a beautiful young lady who calls me daddy. And, I'm stuck, man. I'm stuck. And then like, I've been having this conversation with a couple folks, and I may put this up as the poll on the show tonight. Right. So, again, we're going to a club in Detroit for my daughter's 21st. And, despite the fact that I feel like I'm of a more progressive mindset than a lot of dudes that I know, I do have some reservations about being up in the club with my baby girl, right? Like there's something about that I feel like, first of all, I retired my clubdom, man. Like I feel like already I'm gonna be the old nigga in the club. You know what I'm saying? Nigga! I'm gonna be the old nigga in the club. Clubs annoy me, bro. I don't want to get up and get drinks. Like you try to pass somebody and it's a whole deal. Getting the bartender's attention is a whole deal that I am so past. Like, nigga, I am more than content to go buy that bottle and be at my house and play the music at my crib. Like, this is where I'm at in life now, right? But my baby girl wants to be in the club with an old man. And yeah, so I'm gonna do that for my baby girl on her birthday. I'm gonna be up in the club, you know what I'm saying? You know, go be, you know, having a drink or two with my boy, you know, with my baby, to celebrate this new milestone in her life, man. So yeah, man, a little excited about it. I'm a little uneasy about it too. You know, I'm having, you know, I don't know, man. I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to feel, man. So yeah, I'm working through that. I am working through that, man. Real talk. But that's what's going on with me. So that's why, you know, your man Spann got the gradients on, you know, because, you know, I might have to scope some shit out, and nobody needs to really know what the fuck I'm scoping out. I see everything. Despite y'all think it's dark behind these, nah, I see everything going on behind these, right? So yeah, we got that going on. But before we get into the show, I do have to remind you guys how to get in touch with us over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and let your voice be heard, man. You can go ahead and hit us up at our hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave us those voicemail messages. Of course, those messages will get played here and responded to here live on the show. And if you're watching us here live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can chop it up with your man Spann while we're doing the show, right? So like I said, hit that hotline up at area code 313-288-0485. And yeah, we'll chop it up in that way, right? Also, you can email us here, feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Go ahead, leave us those emails, and of course, those emails will get right here and reply to here live on the show as well. Follow me on Threads and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So go ahead, follow me there, chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week. I know I mentioned that you can catch the show on Twitter, but I'm not really on these Twitter streets like that yet, man. Like, you know, I kind of left the Twitter for the Threads, and I'm really liking Threads. There's some shit going on with Threads that I'm not necessarily liking, so I'm kind of waffling a little bit, but I am primarily on Threads. So if you want to see what I'm talking about throughout the week, man, chop it up with me there on Threads and Instagram, right? Also, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and or Stitcher Radio. No, not Stitcher Radio. There is no more Stitcher Radio. My apologies. 5-star reviews on iTunes and or Spotify, right? Those 5-star reviews are the ones that get right here live on the show. We appreciate everybody who goes about the business of doing that. Doesn't cost you a dime, man. Just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and the Spann Report Podcast Network in its entirety, right? Also, if you're listening to us via Spotify, we do have polls that we put up on Spotify. We do have question and answer segments, portion on there. So if you have anything to say about what we're saying here on the show, or you're listening via Spotify, there's a couple more ways for you to let your voice be heard here on the show, right? Also, you can hit up our website, www.thespannreport.com. You can go there. You can purchase merchandise, right? You can go ahead and cop yourself a hoodie. It is still cold outside. Go ahead, cop yourself a hoodie. Get your coffee mug because it's cold outside, man. Get your warm drink in the Mrs. Spann Official coffee mug, man. We got some of that stuff, man. We got stickers. We got laptop covers. We got the whole shebang bang, man. We got a lot of different products there, and it all looks good. And we appreciate everybody who helps us out in that way. And also, you can be a part of our golden circle of the Spann Podcast Network and everything else, man. Real talk. But yeah, man, that is the ways in which you can get in touch with us here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and the Spann Report Podcast Network. So yeah, man, write those down, take notes, and we appreciate everybody who contacts and lets their voice be heard in that way. And like I said, if you're watching this live, man, go ahead and comment and leave comments and stuff. Oh, I missed one thing. YouTube. Right? So if you're on YouTube and you're catching this on YouTube, man, those comments sometimes, if you're watching this live, of course, we'll highlight some of those comments. But if you're doing in some of our other videos, man, some of those comments we will highlight and we will respond to those here on the show as well. Real talk. But yeah, man. So like I said, we had in the intro, outside of the thing with my daughter, we had quite a bit of news happen over the course of this week, man. And I was actually planning on going live earlier this week, but some shit happened and I had to cancel. I'm like, oops, spoke too soon, right? Spoke too soon. But yeah, man, I know I didn't have it highlighted as something that we were going to talk about, but Beyonce dropped some motherfucking new music on y'all, man. God damn! Yeah, Beyonce dropped some new music. She's now putting out country music, and folks are excited. The Beehive is excited. I'm excited for them. There's already been pushback from the country music community saying that they are not going to play her music on those stations because it's Beyonce and they don't necessarily consider Beyonce a country artist, despite the fact that Beyonce is putting out country music. Of course, that didn't go along well. So the Beehive got into action, and those radio stations, they had to bow down, and then they had to play that music because that's what the people wanted. And it is weird in the sense that when these people are talking about she's not a country artist, and you see some of the racism kind of popping out of folks who are talking about she needs to stay in her lane, this, that, and the other. And when you have to recognize that, like, country music came from us too, man. Country music came from black folks too, and that's part of what I was talking about last week when I was talking about Jay-Z, and when Jay-Z was speaking on the discrepancies when it comes to Beyonce having the most Grammys of everyone in the industry and not having one Album of the Year Grammy. Meanwhile, although he didn't even mention Taylor Swift, many people took it to mean that he was taking a dig at Taylor Swift, which is them telling on themselves again. Right? It's weird how, like, when people just come out here and tell a truth, then there are other people who feel those hit dogs hollering, and they they get to speaking up and speaking loudly, and oftentimes they're like just exposing themselves for being the racist that they are, and they don't even realize that, like, the people that they're trying to put against each other may not even have an issue with each other whatsoever, right? And I doubt very seriously that Jay-Z was even, like, going at Taylor Swift in a way in which people thought that he was going at Taylor Swift. But yeah, man, Beyonce has dropped a couple new songs, man, and I'm glad that, like, for her fans, man, this is something that for them to be excited about. Like, I saw when not even just the white folks, man, but, like, I saw some black folks who were taking issue with the fact that Beyonce was coming out with some with country music, and is like, yo, man, everything doesn't have to be for you. Right? Everything does not have to be for you. And because it's not for you doesn't mean that you have to shit on everything that isn't for you. Right? Like, I can totally acknowledge that, like, as much as, like, Beyonce is a really big star and stuff like that, I recognize that for myself, I'm not the biggest fan, right? A lot of her music, although some of it is good and I can listen to it, it's like, at the same time, this, that's just not my jam, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean that I have to shit on everybody else who enjoys her music, right? And I think oftentimes I think social media has kind of framed us in this way where just because you don't like something means that you have to shit on the next person who likes that thing. And it doesn't always have to be that. And I know sometimes we're all guilty of it, myself included, but it doesn't always have to be that. So yeah, man, Beyonce came out with some new music, and the world with the shit. or better yet, not even so much the world with the shit. The world was set on fire because of this new announcement of Beyonce's new music. So you got that going on. Now, another story that we got going on. This actually happened the other day. Donald Trump was in court, man, and I hope you're sitting down. The judge in his fraud case in New York came down with the judgment on Donald Trump to the tune of nearly $355 million. Yeah, man, we get this story here. This comes out of USA Today. And see, here's the thing about the news. Like, I've seen so many different totals. I don't know what the actual total is. So we're going to roll with what the fuck they talking about on this particular article right here. But here they're saying that the total legal losses for Donald Trump are actually of the tune of $536.8 million. God damn! Yeah. So like I said, I'm going to read from the USA Today. It says it's a New York judge on Friday ordered Trump to pay $453.5 million in penalties and interest over what he said was more than a decade of fraud. On January 26th, a federal jury awarded E. Jean Carroll $83.3 million in damages in a defamation lawsuit she filed against former president. Trump has vowed to appeal both verdicts. So I think they're combining those two verdicts with the $453.5 million and the $83.3 million that he's now legally liable to owe, Right. So it says now that former President Donald Trump has been socked with a combined $536.8 million in losses from 2 damaging courtroom defeats. The question is, will his opponents ever see a dime of the money? The Republican presidential frontrunner and his business trust were ordered to pay $453.5 million in penalties and interest on Friday after a New York judge ruled Trump had spent years fraudulently inflating the value of real estate holdings, including his own Trump Towers penthouse and his private club in Florida. And last month, a federal jury in Manhattan ordered Trump to pay $83.3 million to writer E. Jean Carroll in a defamation case stemming from Carroll's allegation that he sexually assaulted her in the mid-90s. So I guess the biggest question for me, and I think that anybody who's ever had money crunches before in their life can attest to this, is Donald Trump got to be out here asking, can he put something on it? You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, man, I ain't got all of them, and I ain't got all of them, man. Like, can I got an installment plan? You know what I'm saying? Can I just put a little something on it right now, and I got you back in a couple weeks? You know what I'm saying? Donald Trump goes around here talking about how much money he's got. I'm a really rich man. Okay, you gonna be really rich paying $435 million motherfucking dollars, man. Now, here's the rub, right? Here's the rub. Is that by and large, Donald Trump hasn't really come out of pocket to pay any of this legal stuff, right? Most of his legal fees and like paying his lawyers and shit like that has been coming out of his political action committee, where people who are donating to Donald Trump in order to get Donald Trump reelected president, these people are donating that money under those auspices. And I don't know if many of them are aware that most of the money that they're sending to him isn't going towards those efforts, that is going towards keeping his ass out of jail. Now, here's the other part about it, right? I don't know, even if they were to, there's a thing where even if they were to become aware of that, because it's Donald Trump and because we've seen how many of his supporters are truly devoted to his ass, how many of them would even care that this is what the money is being used for, right? That's just one of those things where these sorts of things used to be disqualifying. Like, if you wanted to run for president of the United States and you got accused of some salacious shit, they be like, oh no, man, he can't be president. We can't be having no president up in there doing those kind of shenanigans. I mean, think about what they tried to they impeached Bill Clinton for the relationship that he had with Monica Lewinsky. Now, that whole impeachment or the special counsel started from something entirely different, right? It started from a supposed land deal that he had. I believe it was called Whitewater, a land deal that he had in Arkansas when he was the governor of Arkansas. And that investigation lasted long, and it was long and winding. And then they found out, they landed on the Monica Lewinsky thing. And that's what he got impeached for. He didn't owe anybody $536 million, man. The president was not in debt. At least Bill Clinton wasn't in debt to that degree, right? But many people saw Bill Clinton's behavior around that time as disqualifying of the office, and despite all what he was doing as president. And so for Donald Trump to have lost a civil case that involves him being accused of raping someone, and then also losing another case that involves them basically saying he's guilty of fraud, the fact that there are so many people who are still willing to vote for this guy at this particular juncture just kind of tells you how much shit has changed in America, man. It's a lot of shit that changed in America, considering what some folks are now thinking about voting for going forward, right? So yeah, I just thought it was kind of epic that this dude he's lost in court again, and yet he's still the Republican front runner for president. You got that going on. Yeah, so that's enough about Donald Trump's punk ass. We don't want to talk about his ass no more. We had another story here. This actually happened over the course of this week too, man. There was a shooting in Kansas City during the Super Bowl parade, bruh.
Oh, yeah. What happened to your sheriff? There is powerful niggardry at work here.
Yeah, man. We get this story here. I'm actually going to read this out of ESPN.com. because they said that 2 juveniles have been charged with crimes connected to the shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl rally, authorities said on Friday. A news release from the Jackson County Family Court said that the juveniles were being detained at the county's juvenile detention center on gun-related and resisting arrest charges. The release said it is anticipated that additional charges are expected in the future as the investigation by the Kansas City Police Department continues. A mother of 2 sons was killed and 22 people were injured by gunfire Wednesday afternoon when shots erupted amid the throng of fans gathered at a rally outside Union Station after a parade through the city. Police Chief Stacey Graves said Thursday that the victims range from ages 8 to 47, with half of them being under 16 years old. Police initially detained 3 juveniles, but released 1 who they determined wasn't involved in the shooting. Police are looking for others who may have been involved and are calling for witnesses, victims, and people with cell phone video of the violence to call a dedicated hotline. Unfortunately, when this first kind of came across the airwaves, it was, a mass shooting. And we didn't know whether or not this was, one of those things that was political, whether it was one of those things that was, whether it was, like ideological or what have you. If somebody was just, on some lone wolf shit, they wanted to get had a manifesto or anything else. But ultimately what we're finding out is that this could have been a dispute amongst teenagers. And unfortunately, these teenagers had access to firearms. And of course, teenagers having access to firearms isn't necessarily the greatest thing in the world. And, they have a dispute. And rather than, throw these hands, they throwing them hot ones. Unfortunately, too many other people who had absolutely nothing to do with the dispute find themselves in hospitals, fighting for recovery. And unfortunately, one mother lost her life. You hate to hear it, man. You hate to hear it. And it kind of reminds me something of what we were talking a little bit about last week here in Michigan, where we just had some more gun laws come down with, the parents being held liable for their children being able to obtain firearms, right? There's a kid, Crumbly. His mother was just convicted of involuntary manslaughter because her son went into a school and killed 4 people. And she's now going to prison behind, the actions of her son doing that and the access to a firearm that her and her husband allowed for their son to have. And so it's going to be interesting going forward to see whether or not something like that kind of comes down in the city of Missouri. But in the state of Missouri, where they take action against the parents of these kids who are basically, who going out here and just like harm so many people, right? Because I think to some degree there is a level of responsibility, especially as a gun owner myself. I do think that there's a responsibility of folk to be responsible for the actions of their children in that way, and to be more intentional about their parenting. That's just what I'm saying, going like based on the information that I have in front of me at the moment. But yeah, you hate to see yet another instance of this happening in America. It's become so routine that we just kind of act like this is normal, and it's not. This is only happening here. And so you would hope that, you would hope that at some point those in the position of power or those in the legislature will choose to do something more substantial in order to curb this sort of thing, especially considering that the vast majority of Americans, voting Americans, would like for something to be done. Unfortunately, some of these politicians are taking it upon themselves to stand more in solidarity with the lobbyists as opposed to doing what they should be doing for their constituents. But you got that going on, right? All right. That was a fucking downer. Oh, shit. That was a fucking downer. But yeah, man, let's move on. Let's move on to something a little bit more kind of crazy. So there was a teacher who was fired in Arizona earlier this week, man. And this teacher was fired because she had and OnlyFans. Now, this isn't the first time that we've heard of a teacher losing their job for some inappropriate behavior outside of the workplace. Some of them are losing their jobs because they were, having sexual relationships with the students. Some of them because they were, they had a reputation for being sex workers for respectability's sake. A lot of, folks in the education departments are really frowning upon that sort of thing. And so this particular teacher, her name is Nkechi Diallo, she was fired for having an OnlyFans. Right now, many of you may not even be familiar with this name, Nkechi Diallo, right? But you are familiar with the person who is now walking around with the name Nkechi Diallo. And the reason why you're familiar with this person is because before her name wasn't Nkechi Diallo, her name was Rachel Dolezal.
God damn!
Yeah. Rachel Dolezal is out here on the bullshit, man, on the bullshit. So we get this story here. This comes out of KVOA.com. I believe this is in Tucson, Arizona. And the story reads, it says, Nkechi Diallo has lost her job with the Catalina Foothills School District. Julie Fabric, the district's director of alumni and community relations, said Wednesday in an email to News 4 Tucson. Diallo has a public social media page where she has linked an OnlyFans page that appears to be operated by her. Fabric said in an email, Diallo's posts are contrary to our district's use of social media by district employees policy and our staff's ethics policy. Fairbarrick said the district learned of these social media posts Tuesday afternoon. Some explicit photos are being shared on other public websites. It is unclear if the photos were shared by Diallo or if they were placed there by someone else. Diallo, who used to be known as Rachel Dolezal, you might recognize her name. Dolezal was under fire in 2014, accused of misidentifying herself as black while serving as the head of the NAACP in Spokane, Washington, before resigning amid the backlash. She was a prominent civil rights leader and an African studies professor in Washington State, accused of pretending to be black for personal gain. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing about the Nkechi Diallo, pictures and whatnot that she had on the OnlyFans that she was spreading on the social medias. So I'm kind of more shocked that the people in Arizona did not do the Googles, man, because there's so many people who could have told them what the fuck was going on with Rachel Dolezal. I'm sorry, Nkechi Diallo. I remember, as a matter of fact, as an aside, man, I remember when this lady changed her name to Nkechi Diallo, and I remember black women on Twitter being incensed, nigga. Like they was, if she was in front of a bunch of sisters at the time that she decided to change her name to Nkechi Diallo, I think it was a lot of sisters who were ready to like beat her ass behind that, because here she goes again, really with the cultural appropriation of, I'm gonna really lean into this idea of me being black. Fuck what y'all talking about, black people, right? So you had that going on, but also after she had been outed as a fraud as far as being a black person was concerned, she had an OnlyFans page then, right? Because I remember she even had a Netflix special. She went on in like NBC, the Today Show, to promote the Netflix special and shit like that, right? She had an OnlyFans then because, again, she was at the time was saying that like she was having a hard time making money after, the whole thing. And like this was a way for her to generate some revenue for herself and take care of the people that she had, like 2 adoptive sons that she was that were living with her at the time. And so she had the OnlyFans page. And I remember some of them pictures coming down the Twitter timeline back when I was on Twitter. And like people were taking shots at, like, oh my God, this is what y'all was on. And then of course you had the niggas, sometimes niggas don't care, they just like, man, shit, hell yeah, nigga, that shit look all right to me, shit. I don't give a fuck about that whole faking me black, because it was weird, man. And that was the other weird part about Rachel Dolezal, back when she was, she was really in the news like that. It's just how many dudes were so willing to like give her a pass on the fraudulence that she was like perpetuating against the community. And it was like, yo, you had so many dudes like, man, she out here, man. She doing more shit for black people than a lot of black people I know, nigga. She out here head of the NAACP, nigga. What you niggas doing? She doing more for us than you niggas is doing. It's like, come on, bro. Nigga, your dick can't get that. You gotta think past your dick at some point, dude. Like, come on, man. Like, it ain't that deep. Like, she's really not doing the thing that y'all are saying she's doing. Her whole thing was a grift. And the fact that y'all are so willing to give her a pass on it says more about you than it does about everybody else. But yeah, man, OnlyFans, another teacher, down by the OnlyFans. At a certain point, man, as a teacher, you gotta be. I really feel as though at this point, which with so many of these stories coming out of teachers being fired because of their having an OnlyFans, I kind of feel like if you're making enough money on that OnlyFans, man, it might be time for you to just give up the teaching gig, right? Give up the teaching gig, and like, you know, when you feel like if teaching was your passion, then come back to it when you done with the OnlyFans, man. Because a lot of these school districts, you know, they just not really fucking with the OnlyFans thing, man. They don't want to have to deal with the questions from the parents. They don't want to have to deal with the questions or the students finding out, and the little dudes or the little young ladies in the classroom like, ooh, I want to take Mr. Jones's class because, girl, did you see his OnlyFans? He got OnlyFans. Girl, yeah, I want him to nail me to the wall during detention. You know, that sort of shit. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to have to deal with horny teenagers or kids or whatever the fuck, and them crushing already on their teacher, and then their teacher is out here doing the sex work on the internet, and the kids find out and the parents find out, and it's a whole thing, man. So if you're gonna be doing the OnlyFans, man, if the teaching is your passion and you want to do that with no distractions, you might have to do one or the other. You just might have to do one or the other, man. Real talk, like just to keep the headaches down. Just keep the headaches down, man. You know. So we got that going on. Real talk. Let's see what else we got going on, man. Oh shit. Joe Biden is out here trying to cancel more motherfucking student loans. Oh shit. Nigga. All right, so we get this story here. Where did we get this story here from? We get this out of Politico.com. It says, we'll leave no stone unturned in the fight to fix a broken student loan system, Education Secretary Miguel Cardona said, unveiling the plan. The White House on Thursday unveiled a significant expansion of its plans to cancel student debt as President Joe Biden looks to run on the issue during this year's election. The draft proposal released by the Biden administration would empower the Education Department to discharge the student loans owed by borrowers who are experiencing financial hardship and unlikely to be able to repay their debts. The department proposed a one-time debt relief program that would automatically cancel debt in circumstances where it suggests data that borrowers are at least 80% likely to default on their debt within the next 2 years. The proposal also contemplates applications from individual borrowers experiencing a hardship. It outlines more than a dozen factors that the administration will use to determine financial hardship, such as a household income, total debt balance, history of loan repayment, and receipt of a Pell Grant. The proposal did not define specific thresholds for those factors. Let's see. It says the latest draft is the most wide-ranging part of Biden's Plan B strategy for canceling large swaths of student debt in the wake of the Supreme Court's decision last summer to strike down his first attempt to cancel as much as $400 billion in outstanding debt. So, again, like I said, you know, as much as we talk about some of the things that are going on in the world, man, and why they ain't doing nothing to help the American people, here's another example of them trying to do this even around the Supreme Court, considering that the Supreme Court deemed it unconstitutional for Joe Biden to be able to cancel over $400 billion in student loan debt. And up to this point, I think he's canceled up to $135 billion so far within the last 3 years. So yeah, man, there's more. This is much longer article, but yeah, so they are releasing this new strategy as a way to try to help more people who are experiencing financial hardships to kind of get around and get that relief from not having to pay their student loan debts back, man. Real talk. And I know quite a few folks who are still dealing with student loan debt to a crushing degree. I mean, I still owe student loans, and I probably wouldn't qualify for any of these programs. But you know, I'm lucky enough that like my student loan debt is like less than $10,000 now. I could probably knock that down. But there's a lot of people who are dealing with a significant amount of debt, much more than I am, who could very well use that help. And so don't be a hater and be like, well, shit, I had to pay my loan back. Why they ain't got to pay their loan back? It's like, come on, bro. Like, yo, that's like being mad at cancer patients for like having a cure when you lost a loved one due to cancer. It's like, bro, unfortunately, the solution wasn't there for us at the time, but it's here for someone else. And we should be happy that the solution is there for someone else. So you got that going on. Joe Biden out here trying to help the people and shit. You know, meanwhile, Donald Trump out here trying to take money out of your pocket to pay his legal bills. I'm just saying. Hey, speaking of which, well, I didn't add this to my little docket here, but yo, man, did y'all know that? I know we weren't gonna talk about Trump no more, but hold up. Did y'all know that this nigga Trump showed up at like a sneaker con, dog? He showed up at sneaker con. Yeah, hold on. I got this video here. This comes from Threads. Let me see if I can pull this up so you guys can see right along with me, man, because this is actually kind of crazy. But this is on Threads right now. He gave a speech at SneakerCon, and he's got sneakers. Donald Trump is out here selling sneakers, y'all. This is crazy. Let me pull this up so y'all can see, and let's see what this nigga is talking about.
We have lines, and I want to thank Chase, and I want to thank Alan.
Come on, play the fucking video.
Wow, a lot of emotion.
It sound like they booing his ass at this goddamn SneakerCon.
There's a lot of emotion in this room. Thank you.
This probably really isn't his crowd.
Thank you. So
they booing his ass up in this bitch, man.
So the really nice thing is we have lines, and I want to thank Chase, and I want to thank Alan. But we
okay, but yeah. So Donald Trump was
wow, a lot of emotion.
Yeah, so like it sounds like this video is fucking buffering and shit. But yeah, so Donald Trump was at SneakerCon. And I believe they had like, I believe someone had like what was that? They showed pictures of the actual shoes on here. I'm not seeing it now, but they had them somewhere earlier. I don't see them anymore. But yeah, man, I was going to show the shoes because I was wondering whether or not anybody would actually buy the shoes and wear the shoes that Trump came out with. Maybe Kanye West. Maybe Kanye West would come out and wear the Trump shoes in 2025. But here's the thing, all right? Here's the rub. The shoes that Donald Trump was reportedly selling, he wanted people to pay, get this, y'all, $399. Yeah, Donald Trump wanted people to pay $399 for these shoes. And I'm guessing, this is just me, but I'm guessing that the reason why, much like, when it came to LeVar Ball and them goddamn big baller brand shoes, the reason why these shoes are really fucking expensive is because Donald Trump, I just told y'all earlier, this nigga owes $500 million, man. This nigga owe $500 million to the state of New York and to E. Jean Carroll. He need the bread, y'all. This motherfucker need the money. He about to be president, put something on it. So yeah, man, Donald Trump went to a shoe conference and pitched some shoes, and yeah, he's selling them for $399. Would you pay $399 to wear anything that Trump is selling? I'm sure he will find some people in the Trump coalition, the Trump cult, who would be willing to spend $399 on some shoes that he's pushing. But yeah, man, Donald Trump really trying to get y'all with that shit, man. But yeah, I thought that was funny. I didn't even have that really on the docket. I think I added it like at the last second, man. But yeah, man, you got that going on. So Donald Trump selling shoes, and he owes $500 million. That's crazy. It's crazy. The world is crazy. But yeah, so we got another story here. This is something I kind of wanted to get into. There was this comic, man, a guy by the name of David Lucas, right? I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with comic David Lucas, but the reason why we're talking about David Lucas is because David Lucas did a set at a comedy club, and he made a joke about George Floyd, and a lot of the black members of the audience got the fuck up and walked out.
Oh, yeah. What happened to your shaft? There is powerful niggardry at work here.
All right, so we get this story here. This comes out of the Atlanta Black Star. Let me move this over here because I think they got video attached to this, so we might be end up watching this video. But part of this article says that Lucas, who self-identifies as an edgy comedian that pushes boundaries, said there's a clip that is circulating around social media, and since that clip has come out, I have spoken to a lot of George Floyd's family. I spoke to Kyle Wayne, Trader True, Stephen Jackson, and my intention was never to cause harm to his family or make them revisit a moment that happened a few years ago. Excuse me. He said, and in his statement, he's saying, I just want to apologize to his kids and everybody who was close to him. The aforementioned set was filmed during his show at Kansas City, Missouri. The Funny Bone Club at the top of January, after being heckled by an audience member, Lucas at one point tried to roast the patron from the stage. All right, so let's see what they're talking about here. Let me take this down. Let's take that down. Let me add this and see what the hell this dude was talking about. Where's the video? Here we go. Let's see what he.
It's a joke. Did you call me man? Huh? Don't be shy. I'll turn these lights on. Speak up. What'd you say? Turn the lights up. Turn them all the way up. All the way up. All the way the up. I want it to look like y'all cleaning up in this bitch. Turn the lights up. This nigga talking, don't want to talk. Turn the lights up, bro. Come on, come on. Where he at? Where's... Look, they point that nigga out like, bitch, I ain't about to catch no stray bullet for your motherfucking man. I got to see the nigga that called me titty man, because if this nigga fat, boy, I'm about to turn the back lights on specifically. We gotta... I still can't see this black ass nigga. Huh? Yeah, you is, nigga. Your ass look like... You look like Big Boy after that surgery. Huh?
Mama Dia look like a lizard with that hair.
This nigga saying nothing with your Tyler Perry face ass, nigga. Your ass look like you made out of Play-Doh, nigga. Get your...
All right, so I'm gonna just say this, like just judging based on what I'm hearing right now, and this is something that I like. When I go to comedy, clubs and comedy shows, I don't know what it is, but there's always a contingent, or there's always somebody who feels as though their job is to go to the show and like heckle the comedians. I don't know what it is about them, if it's alcohol or what, but they feel it's like their job to go and like heckle the comedians. And oftentimes it's like, yo, man, nobody paid money to come see you, right? So like, I'll give this David Lucas guy a little bit of grace just based on the fact that like he's dealing with a heckler, because I know most people when they go to a comedy show, they're not paying money to see the heckler talk shit to the comedian. They want the comedian to go up there and do their thing. And oftentimes the heckler just kind of takes away from the show, especially when there's, you might have come like paid money to come see a comic, was on a rise and stuff like that, and you're really a fan of their work. But then here's this knucklehead nigga in the crowd who just wants to make this entire moment about themselves. And I like, real talk, I hate that shit. I do.
That nigga back there with $8 worth of drinks, bet you ain't shit. With a back.
What I am not understanding is why the YouTube is buffering right at this moment, though. We'll have to deal with this. Okay. Yeah, why is it fucking buffering? Let's try it.
Come on stage, bro. Come on.
Because I don't want to listen to this whole entire set. Where's the part where he talked about George Floyd?
Yeah, nigga, your ass. Okay, he'll get up out of there, nigga.
Okay, so I think we might have.
And they gonna slap me there and smoke a Camel. It's called comedy, nigga. You really stoop low to put the outfit on, nigga. You look like you drive a yellow taxi cab, nigga. Your ass. Okay, he'll get up out of there, nigga. This nigga must have got a free ticket. Hey, bring my backpack back. Bring my backpack, nigga. Just in case. Nigga, I ain't fucking around. Yeah, bring my backpack, nigga. Swear to God. Bring my backpack. Bring my whole backpack.
Hold on a second, man. Because I'm not about to watch this whole nigga set, bro. I really not. That's not what we here to do. We really want to see what the hell he's talking about when it comes to this George Floyd thing. And here we go with the buffering again, YouTube. Like, what the fuck, bro? What the fuck, man? Maybe it's because it's like prime internet hours or some shit. And everybody's trying to use the Comcast. Is that what it is? I think that's what it is sometimes, man. That's the only thing that makes sense. Because as much as I pay for this fucking internet, I shouldn't get any buffering whatsoever, man. But yeah, man. So whatever the fuck, he made a joke about George Floyd, man, and much to say, like as he was battling the heckler, that you're the reason why you're showing out in front of these white folks is the reason why George Floyd, why what happened to George Floyd happened, and he went further to say that, he wouldn't have kneeled on George Floyd's neck. He would have shot George Floyd. Nigga! Yeah, that's what he said. That's what kind of sparked this entire thing where, we're talking about him here on the show and they're talking about him in Atlantic Black Star and everything else, right? So you got that going on. Let me just take that down because for whatever reason, this fucking video doesn't want to play. But yeah, that was a fucked up thing to say. I mean, this bottom line, that was a fucked up thing to say. And I don't know why anybody would have thought that would have been like, something that you could get past with people, right? And so that was the joke that caused the black people in that crowd to get up and walk out while he was doing that set, right? So he went on an episode of Willie D Live, right? Guys, for those of you who are old enough to remember, Willie D was a member of the Ghetto Boys, old school rapper, turned podcaster. I think he's got damn near 1 million subscribers on YouTube now. So like Willie D has really leaned into on this podcasting YouTube thing. And he went and he talked to David Lucas, and he talked with David Lucas about this particular moment. I want to add this video, but I hope this fucker actually plays, man, because the videos have been acting real janky these last couple of weeks. Let's see what happens here though. So let's see what he has to say about himself.
But you took it a step further and you said that you would never have kneeled on George Floyd's neck. You would have shot that nigga. You've had a week or so to think about what you said. Do you still feel the same way as far as the joke, upholding the joke and being defiant and unapologetic about it?
I'm an advocate for free speech, right?
Okay.
The great Patrice O'Neal said that a funny joke and a bad joke come from the same place. So that was my attempt at comedy.
Explain it.
It was to get shock value. I'm a troll. You heckle me, now I heckle you. I talked to George Floyd's brother.
When?
Sunday. Trey, you know Trey?
Yeah.
Trey the Truth?
Yeah.
I think he said he's George Floyd's brother or cousin or something.
I'm not sure what the relationship is, but I know Trey. Shouts out to Trey.
Trey the Truth.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, Trey, if I upset you personally, because that's your relative, I apologize. But I don't apologize for doing a joke. Who are we as the gatekeepers to say when a joke goes too far? I joke about beating on white women. I joke about killing white women. I joke about gay people. I joke about the transsexual community. So the moment I apologize for a George Floyd joke, now I gotta apologize for every other joke. So who in this situation is the gatekeeper to tell me you went too far or you didn't go far enough? Is it because I'm not famous? If Dave Chappelle would have said that joke, what would have happened? He might would have been a little wittier because he's been doing comedy longer than me, but it's all in the name of laughter, all in the name of free speech. And a lot of people say, you're pandering, you're doing this, you're doing that. How? Because I said a joke about a black guy in front of a majority white audience. Majority of my fan base is white. That's no secret. Black people, for some reason, have never liked my comedy because I'm different. And I don't go up there and talk about big dick, little dick, big pussy, big ass jokes. Those are not my jokes. My jokes are very cerebral. So if you come to my show, I might say a lot of crazy shit, but on your drive home, you're going to be thinking a lot.
Okay, I'm thinking. And I'm thinking what just came out of his mouth was a bunch of bullshit, right? Here's why. He asked the question. One of the questions that he asked was, who are the gatekeepers on what's funny and what isn't, right? The fact that there's a comedian asking this question right now in 2024 absolutely blows my mind. The gatekeepers on what exactly is funny is your audience, right? The audience determines whether or not you're funny or not. And I know there's a lot of comedians who are listening to the sound of my voice right now who will be like, Spann, you don't know what the fuck you talking about. I know I'm funny. I make people laugh all the time, this, that, and the other. That may be true. But when the audience doesn't find you funny, guess what you just did? You bombed, right? Your material did not work for the audience in which you were in front of. You bombed. You weren't funny to them, right? So when you're asking the question, who are the gatekeepers on what it is to be funny? It is always the audience. The audience determines whether or not you're going to make any money because they're the ones who are buying the tickets in order to come see you do your thing. And if you're offending, if you think just being offensive is what makes you funny, then I'm sorry, man. You're going to have a hard time. If that's your only lane, is to just say some offensive shit and think that everybody's just supposed to be cool with you just saying something offensive, and everybody's so sensitive because you're saying this thing that they should be cool with because it's all funny jokes, right? It's First Amendment, yada, yada, yada. But when the audience is telling you this ain't funny, guess what? For that moment, your ass ain't funny, right? Now, another thing he said that I thought was some bullshit was this. He said that my audience is primarily white and that black people have never really kind of glommed onto his comedy. They've never really liked his comedy. And then he goes further into saying that, like, because I don't tell big dick jokes. I don't tell this, like these lowbrow sort of jokes. I'm more cerebral. You thinking when you leave my show. And essentially what he's saying is, yeah, black people aren't the most smartest motherfuckers in the world. And so in order to entertain black people, you got to come with some of the more, low rent, low brow, not cerebral sort of jokes in order to get a laugh out of them. So if you understand, if this is your understanding of what it means to be a comic and to be a comic in rooms that have black people in it, then you should also understand that, like, when you do go and do the George Floyd thing, that black people ain't going to be feeling you too. Because of what happened to George Floyd and because of what that movement meant to a lot of people and because of what that ultimately resulted in, as far as, like, not only it influenced, like, getting Donald Trump the fuck up out of the White House. People were, like, gassed out of a park just so this dude could stand in front of a church and hold up a Bible upside down. People were hit with rubber bullets. People were tear gassed and all this other shit just for advocating for justice on behalf of George Floyd. So you thought that going into a room with a majority white audience and then there are black people there, that the black people would not take offense to what the fuck you were saying? Now, I get you were being heckled, but get the fuck out of here, dude. Get the fuck out of here. It's like you were waiting. Like, let's not do that. What he said, though, was just...
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. No wonder you get D's and everything.
Yeah, man. So that was one point that I thought was important, or at least that was what kind of caught my eye or caught my ear when he was saying that shit. Was that my audience is primarily white, that black people have never liked my comedy, and asking the question of who are the gatekeepers of what's funny in comedy, right? So you got those three things I think we kind of addressed. Now, there was another portion of this video that he talked on that I want to kind of address too. So let me get to that point here. I believe it is. Yeah, I believe it's here. And let's see what he says here.
They can shut you down. You, like you said, you got, because your fan base is predominantly white, people accuse you of pandering.
But that wasn't by choice.
What wasn't by choice? That your fan
My
base
fan
is
base.
predominantly white?
Let me tell you a quick story. I moved to LA straight out of high school. I was 19 in a city where I didn't know nobody. Mm-hmm. Bruce was my mentor at the time from Atlanta because I was going to his mics. You know, I went to all the black clubs that he told me to, and these people gave me so many problems. So I said, if I'm going to have problems in this entertainment industry, it's not going to be from people that look like me. And we both can sit here and agree that if I go do a black room, I have to limit my subject matter, period.
Okay, again, he's talking about if he goes and do a black room, he has to limit what he talks about, as if black people aren't intelligent enough to follow what the fuck it is he's saying. Like, come on, bro. Come on, man. Like, come on, bro. Come on, man. You're not good. We can't let you get away with that sort of shit, man.
This comedy is not about colors. It's more so about classism.
Even if you thought it was more about classism, right? It's not about colors, it's about classism. Think about what you just said. You have to limit what you talk about when you go to black rooms. So you think that, like, they are, just based upon what you said, that there aren't black people of the same, living in the same class as some of these white people in these rooms that you are pandering to when telling these fucked up ass jokes about black people? And then your attitude about when you go into a club, that you have to limit what you talk about when it comes to black people. But I guess, you know, when you do, you don't have to limit what you say in front of white people, because guess what? White people are very much willing to laugh at those jokes about black people. So you can get away with those jokes with the white crowd because they're not going to hold you to account. Black people will. That's why you are running into problems. So like this, like it's weird, man. Like, you know, I like the fact that like Buddy not only told the joke, but is then like trying to, you know, well, I apologize to the George Floyd family if I made them feel any sort of way, but like, you know, black people mostly, like I the reason why my fan base is white is because I got to limit what I say when they come to black people. It's like, come on, bro. Nah, it's not that, man. It's just like, yo, man, they gonna hold your ass accountable, man. You're not just gonna get up there and just say any motherfucking thing without getting checked, man. That's just what it is. And that's not even talking about like heckling, right? Because again, I've already expressed what I feel about heckling. Nobody paid money to come see your ass in the crowd talking shit to the comic. Nobody paid for that. But at the same time, you're not gonna sit on a platform and say, "Hey, I gotta limit what I say when it comes to black people, and when I can't do this certain kind of comedy because it requires you to think and all this other shit." At the same time, saying you can't do that comedy in front of black people. It's bullshit, man. It's bullshit. So yeah, man, that happened over the course of this week. I just thought that was something interesting, and I wanted to kind of speak to it. Right now, another issue that we got going on, man. Shannon Sharpe, and I know this is part of the reason why a lot of y'all probably even tuned in tonight. It's because of we was talking about not only just Shannon Sharpe, but Monique and everything else. But I'm gonna tackle this part here first, right? So Shannon Sharpe, he and Mike Epps have apparently squashed their beef, man. They've yeah, man, Shannon Sharpe and Mike Epps have kind of let it go, man. So they met up in Indianapolis. You know, All-Star Weekend is happening in Indianapolis. This is probably the least hyped NBA All-Star Weekend I've seen in quite some time, man. But we gonna get this story here. This comes out of hotnewhiphop.com because I wanted to talk about the squashing of said beef, not the continuation of said beef. And this was the only outlet that even had the shit up. So we're going to read this story out of hotnewhiphop.com. And it says that Shannon Sharpe appears to have fully squashed his beef with Mike Epps. As promised, no video required, no audio required, just a picture of proof. We are good. Sharpe wrote on social media alongside a picture of the pair. Previously, Sharpe said that the pair would settle the beef on Club Shay Shay. And I asked y'all about that. I said, do y'all think this is just a ploy for Mike Epps to end up on Club Shay Shay? Could that have been the whole goal, was to end up on that couch to be able to talk his shit on Club Shay Shay? Because Club Shay Shay is now one of the more de facto places to go when people want to be heard and everything else, right? I was kind of wondering if that was the play. It says the beef began when Epps called Sharpe out on stage during a stand-up performance. He says, that nigga Shannon Sharpe called me trying to do an interview. He said to the crowd, I said, no, Madea, I ain't doing no interview with you. So you can sit across from me and look at my balls. The nigga The nigga shit is called Shay Shay. The nigga is telling you, put a wig on that motherfucker and tell me that ain't motherfucking Medea's sister. The situation devolved into a full-blown beef with the pair trading shots throughout the week. However, Epps is not the only person to make comments about Sharpe's sexuality. Antonio Brown went after Sharpe after Sharpe criticized Lamar Jackson. Sharpe a rainbow. He don't respect real players, Brown wrote. Furthermore, the disgraced wide receiver's tweet saw him firing off 2 separate insults at the Hall of Famer in just 8 words. The notion that Shannon Sharpe is gay is a long-time insult leveled at the former tight end. Meanwhile, there's also the implication that Sharpe isn't a real player, which is wild given that his career receiving yards, despite not being a true receiver, is less than 2,000 behind former wide receiver 1 Brown. Brown was responding to an old clip of Sharpe chastising Jackson for his physical play and reckless behavior at a charity event last year. The point that the post Brown was responding to was that Sharpe, who was very critical of Jackson after the AFC Championship game, had always been biased against Jackson. Furthermore, Brown's comments were part of his continued promotion of his media brand. Now, I didn't even know about that whole shit when it comes to Antonio Brown. Dude hasn't been right for a little while, man. Like, the fact that we even paying attention to what the fuck Antonio Brown is saying right now is a bit odd to me. That's keeping it a buck, right? But here's the deal though, right? A few weeks ago, when the whole Katt Williams thing on Shannon Sharpe's podcast came about, and I spoke about this here on the podcast before when that thing was going on, and Katt Williams said, well, Katt Williams basically went on there and he cast hella aspersions and threw hella insinuations across all of the entertainment industry about whether or not people were compromising themselves and being in whether or not they were like implicating that people may be gay or part of the LGBTQ community, or that they have to but even if they aren't a part of the community, they have to somehow submit themselves to that community in order to get ahead in the industry, right? And I said at the time that notion that anybody who has any level of success in the industry is only because they compromise themselves in sort of way was bullshit. And I remember how so many people, when that Katt Williams interview came out, people were like, Katt ain't told no lies. I believe everything that Katt said. Katt got receipts. And there, Katt had some receipts for some shit, but there was some other things that, they didn't really meet the smell test. Like, we had the whole thing about this. Like,
This nigga was clearly lying.
there were some things that the nigga was clearly lying about, but people wasn't trying to hear that, right? And I remember saying this, man, like, the idea that these people are only successful because they compromise themselves in some way is a dangerous motherfucking mindset to have. Right? Dangerous mindset to have. Fast forward not even a month later, and people are coming at Shannon Sharpe with the accusations that Shannon Sharpe has either compromised himself, or that he's gay, or that he's giving out favors for his success. Never mind that most of this success is mostly kind of coming off of the back of lightning in the bottle with the whole Katt Williams interview. To begin with, it was lightning in the bottle. I don't think Shannon Sharpe could have predicted that his show would reach the echelons that it is reaching because of what Katt Williams did on his show, right? And yet now, Shannon Sharpe is now being hit with those same sort of, you compromise yourself, brother. You part of the LG, and like these are accusations that have kind of been floating around Shannon for a minute. I remember there were pictures of his stylist, like him. When he goes out and he has a stylist with him. What I didn't know initially was that his stylist is actually his nephew, and that is his nephew that is around that is around with him when he's going out to events and everything else. But people were taking it like that when he goes out in public and he's out with this young male. That's his dude. That's his boyfriend or whatever. Now, Shannon has said that I don't chase a lie and I'm not going to give that any energy and everything else. But the point that I'm making is those sorts of cries are coming out even louder now that Shannon Sharpe has more profile than he had before, right? Corey Holcomb out here on the same shit. Mace out here on the same shit. There's so many people now taking shots at Shannon Sharpe. Even Steven Jackson over at the Up and Smoke, All the Smoke podcast, and he's criticizing the way that Shannon Sharpe allows people to come on on his show and say things. And he said, well, we wouldn't allow people to come on and do sort of that shit like that, and forgetting that, like, yo, he just had Isaiah Thomas on that show not too long ago, and he was talking cash shit about Michael Jordan, right? And then followed that up with having Charles Oakley on All the Smoke, and Charles Oakley going in on Isaiah Thomas about the shit that Isaiah Thomas said about Michael Jordan. But it's all about the attention that Shannon Sharpe has been able to garner as of late when it comes to that show. And it would be funny if it wasn't so predictable that now Shannon has to defend himself and his integrity against attacks of him either being gay, despite the fact that there's nothing wrong with being gay, but those are the attacks being leveled at him. He's fighting those attacks. Excuse me. But then also just fighting attacks against his integrity as a man, as someone who's moving in this space in media. It has been real interesting to kind of watch how that happened. And so, like I said, when it came to this Mike Epps shit, I thought that the play was Mike Epps trying to get on Club Shay Shay, right? This is an opportunity for me to kind of get, to kind of promote what I got going on. I could use that publicity. And guess what? That's exactly what the fuck he did. Even after he was calling, Shannon Sharpe zesty and all this other shit, he was like, yeah, man, make sure y'all go ahead and buy tickets to my new comedy special. Yeah. Like, yeah, he was using this as an opportunity to promote himself. And it's just kind of weird watching it play out, especially I've been doing this a long time. And so, like, at a certain point when it's like you've seen the movie before. You've seen this movie before. And so when you're watching it play out, like, oh man, watch this is the best part. This is the best part right here. Watch this. Check this out. Because you see how you're seeing how people are moving. You understand the play. And so, yeah, I think it's dope that, like, Shannon Sharpe and Mike Epps were, they were publicly going at each other. The fact that they were publicly able to squash that, I think that was dope of both of them to be able to do that, right? The other part that I think is kind of crazy is that, I guess that now that Shannon has the attention of everybody, that there's so many people who probably feeling a little bit jealous that they've been in this space for much longer than Shannon Sharpe has been, and yet they've not been able to garner the amount of attention that Shannon Sharpe has been able to garner. And that is driving a lot of this animosity towards Shannon Sharpe, right? Because again, in order for a lot of people to justify why they're not in the place in which they wish to be, they have to besmirch the character of those who are in that place that they wish to be. Which is why I thought some of the things that Katt Williams said about some of the people that he talked about was a little fucked up. Because I do believe that Katt Williams would like to be in some of those places that some of those other folks are, but he's not. And so the accusation that they compromise themselves in order to be there is fucked up. And so many people latch on to that idea. And it's like, I hate to see it. But I do appreciate these two grown ass men, squashing their beef in a much, in a responsible way, because it was getting stupid. Like, you got two 50-year-old motherfuckers talking about some fighting and shooting and all this other shit. Like, these are the things we tell the 20-year-olds, the teenage niggas. Hey, bro, that ain't the way. That ain't the way. So when they see the elders out here doing that dumb shit, how then do you talk to them? Like, hey man, nigga, when you just out here talking about going bang bang, nigga, like now you gonna tell me to be responsible, nigga? I ain't trying to hear that shit from you, right? So you got that going on. Now, the last story that we're gonna kind of cover here before I get my ass on the fuck up out of here and finish getting ready to go like celebrate with my baby and everything is Monique, man. So Monique and her son are dealing with some familial issues, man. They are dealing with some family issues out in the public. And it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate that this is playing out in front of everybody. But sometimes, I'll just say this. Sometimes maybe it has to play out that way. Right? Sometimes maybe it has to play out that way in order to get some level of resolution, right? And so the reason why Monique and her son are dealing with some issues publicly right now is because of the fact that Monique's appearance on Club Shay Shay actually drove a response from her son, Shalon, her oldest son, Shalon. And so I'm gonna read a bit from this article here on Vibe before I talk a little bit more about this, right? So we get the story here, like I said, from Vibe. It said Monique's oldest son, Shalon Jackson, has spoken on their estranged bond following the comedian's viral appearance on the Club Shay Shay podcast. In a nearly 10-minute TikTok video, Jackson responds to the portion of the interview where the Precious star addresses her false narrative about her praying to the universe to reconcile their relationship. Jackson, who is also a stand-up comedian, began by explaining he wrote down his response to avoid getting emotional or caught up when sharing his side of the story. I would like to free her from having to continue telling that lie, detailed Jackson. Faith without work is dead, and neither one of us cares to put forth any effort to reconcile with each other. We are separate, as she puts it, because she doesn't care to be my mother any more than I care to be her son. He continued to explain that neither party has reached out to the other in some time, adding that Monique's current husband does not acknowledge him while she discusses their troubled past in the viral interview. Neither one of us had the desire to reach out to the other in a very long time, and I don't think either of us anticipates that feeling returning, he said, adding, I'm tired of hearing my mother's truths. Newsflash, standing in your truth does not make you noble. He continued to add that responding this way allows me to say my piece uninterrupted. To all those wondering, why say something now? Call it a form of therapy. Later sharing that Monique admitted to him that she did not do her best job. Be completely honest and fair, those were things that I was willing to get over. Nobody's perfect. We're all human. But my mother showed a clear lack of humility, compassion, and consideration when taking any level of accountability for those things. My mother does a fantastic job of acknowledging a lot of things, but she doesn't take accountability very well. And anything that she may take true accountability for is only at her convenience in my experience, right? So these are the things that Shalon Jackson, Monique's son, had to say. And I'll say this, man, like just based on like I've had this stance here for a while. And I will always, and when I'm talking about most of these stories, man, when y'all listening to me, I'm talking about things and how I see them. And sometimes my life kind of colors how I see shit, right? So I just want to make this shit clear. I just want to make that clear. My life colors how I see certain things. And so usually when the children of these celebrities comes out and they say anything against their celebrity parent, I pay attention. I pay attention to those kids, and I am more apt to believe those kids and their experience when it comes to them coming out against their parents in a public way, right? For the interview who have been listening to me for any length of time, you guys know that my grandfather was blues singer Johnny Taylor, and my father was his son, Floyd Taylor, right? About 13 years ago, I publicly blasted my father on YouTube for his basically being a deadbeat father to me and my brothers and sisters, right? And that, people at the time were coming at me. Why are you bringing this up to us? This is family business. Why you pulling this out? This ain't none of our business. You should have kept you should have kept that to yourself. This, that, and the other, right? And then there was also a contingent of folks who would come at me and say, like, this is because you want something. You want some money or something. And it was odd. It was odd to me because those people were under the impression that Floyd Taylor had a shit ton of money, and he didn't. Floyd Taylor didn't have much when he passed. Trust me, I know. Right? And it wasn't money that I wanted from him. Much more than anything else, at the time of our falling out, was that I wanted a relationship with my siblings, whom at the time I barely knew. And I had two sisters I did not know at all. Hadn't seen them ever. Right? And so that was what our falling out was about. And I remember, folks coming at me sideways, saying all sorts of crazy shit about my mom and all sorts of stuff, right? Because that was the parasocial relationship that people have with celebrity, is that they always took the side of the celebrity because the celebrity gave them something to remember them by some way, right? The art kind of gave them something to remember them by. So like, whether it be the music, whether it be the comedy, whether it be the movies and the roles that they took on, like people, like you think about how people look at Bill Cosby. A lot of folks think that Bill Cosby raised them based upon his role as Dr. Huxtable on the Cosby Show. So many people will come at your neck for coming at the dude that they believe vicariously raised them through that TV show. So when you come out as a person who actually knows that dude and you say something a little, that doesn't exactly jive with the public persona that this person has cultivated for themselves, their fans will be upset with you, right? And I get it. I get it when these children of these celebrities come out. Now, I've said this on the show before, on the Spann Report before. I'll say this again here on the Miss Spann Official. Floyd Taylor was nowhere near the star that Monique was, nowhere near the star, is, nowhere near the star that Brian McKnight is, nowhere near the star that Kurt Franklin is. But when these kids of these stars come out and say something, I'm saying to you, I'm paying attention to what these kids are saying. Because far too often, we dismiss the experience of these people, but the children of these people who have a much different relationship with that person that you idolize because of the art that they produced. And it was interesting that, to me, how so many people wanted Shalon to be more private in how he addressed what he had to address with his mom, right? Why are you saying something now? Why couldn't you handle this behind closed doors? Why are you putting all this out for all of us to hear, right? And it was ironic only because Monique has been airing out her her private grievances with a whole bunch of different folks. She's been airing these grievances out for the better part of a decade now, right? And some of us have been championing, kind of being like championing her, like, yo, a cheerleader for her to say to, like, yo, man, the things that I'm going through in this industry, they've wronged me, and they need to make these things right. And she's galvanized a great number of people to cheer for her to say, yeah, man, they need to be making this shit right. This wrong what they've been doing to Monique. Monique was out here saying that she wasn't being paid the amount of money she should have been getting paid a long time before Taraji P. Henson was saying this shit. And unfortunately for Monique, because so many people were not liking Monique at the time, were not receiving the message. When it came to Taraji P. Henson saying it, suddenly they got it. They were receiving the message. Now, that didn't mean that what Monique was saying was wrong. Maybe it just wasn't the right messenger, right? Because, again, some folks just did not like Monique when she was saying this shit. So we can't have it both ways, We can't have it both ways. Yeah, Monique, we're sorry that we didn't acknowledge these things that you were dealing with privately. Now we understand why you were bringing them public. But then her son comes out. He has an issue and there's a grievance that he has with her. And he's saying what he has to say to her publicly, and everybody wants to shut him up. There's no consistency in that. I like consistency. And two things can be true at the same time. Yes, Monique has been wronged in the entertainment industry. But yes, her son could also have some very real misgivings about his upbringing with her as his mother. And both of them have come to the public to air out those grievances. Now, I've talked about, I've been a fan of Monique, man. I like Monique's comedy. I've gone to a few of different shows of Monique here in Detroit. A friend of mine is being mentored by Monique. So like there's that connection there. But at the same time, as someone who has come out against a parent publicly and had fans of said parents come at me sideways because of the things that I said about this person that I actually knew and y'all just knew through the art, I pay attention when these kids come out and say what they got to say about these parents. Because far too many people straight up dismiss them because they think that they just want something, right? Now, unironically enough, Monique and her husband, Sidney Hicks, came out and they responded to what Shalon Jackson had to say about, Monique's parenting and what have you. One of the things I thought was very interesting, though, was the fact that there was a lot of Sidney Hicks speaking in this video when the video was not about him. This was a video of a young man speaking about his misgivings, speaking about the misgivings he had with his mother about the way in which his mother raised him. And in the response video, we got a lot of Sidney Hicks and not Monique, which I thought was disappointing. Right? Because if you're going to address this publicly, if we're all going to be a part of the discussion, if we're going to address this publicly, then I needed Monique to be the one responding to her son, not her husband. Because, I mean, ultimately, like the real beef is between you and your son, not your husband and your son. Despite the fact that you've known Sidney since y'all were kids, and like, he called him Uncle Sid and everything else, that's all fine and good. But when you're dealing with an issue between a mother and her son, or a father and his son, or a parent and their child, step parent or not, hey man, this ain't about you. This ain't got nothing to do with you. It may have something to do with you. You might have some role in this. But my beef right now is with the person that helped bring me into the world. We need to have a conversation. We need to have a come to Jesus moment. And what we don't need is you justifying shit. I thought I like when I watched that, I'm like, this ain't it. This ain't it. He was speaking to his mom and about what his mom's actions. And here we get a video response and mostly Sidney Hicks talking, not Monique. I thought I was disappointed in that. Now, of course, the title of the show is No One Wins When the Family Feuds, and we don't, right? We don't have, I mean, like I even when I did the thing that I did, I mean, and I'll say this, because there's a question that a lot of folks have, they have when these sorts of things happen. Why are these kids talking all this shit? Why are they coming out publicly? Why don't they keep this shit in house? Why they got to bring us into all this stuff? We ain't got to know all this, right? I'm going to tell you exactly why kids of these celebrities come out. Because they feel like they don't have any other option. These kids come out because they know that this celebrity parent cares a lot about what the public thinks of them. Right? Think about this for a minute. These kids have been frustrated with their parents for a long time. Have had things that they're dealing with that they don't feel like their parents have dealt with in a very real way for a long time. So by the time one of these kids comes forward to say anything publicly negatively against that parent is because they're trying to get the attention of that parent in a very real way. You don't care about what I think about you, but you do care about what all these motherfucking strangers think about you. And so now I could tell these strangers this shit that you've been doing behind closed doors that they don't fucking know about. And now you really got to handle this. This is why they do it. It's why I did it. It's why I did it. Right? I was on a phone call with my father that night when I put that shit out on YouTube. And that nigga hung up in my face because he didn't want to hear what I had to say. Okay, fine. I'm going to put it out there in a way that you can't fucking ignore. And ultimately what came from that was I called him that night to get phone numbers to some sisters that I have that I'd never met, despite the fact that I was 30 years old, had never met either of my sisters. Guess what happened? As a result, some cousins reach out. One of my sister's moms reach out. Then another sister reaches out. Because they didn't know that I was looking for them, that I wanted to know them, that I wanted to have a relationship with them. They had no idea. Now, had I not done what I did, we probably would never have known each other at all or much about each other at all. I wouldn't have known I had as many nephews and nieces that I got. Right? I just wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have known that I had them somewhere in Illinois and somewhere in Wisconsin, and then I had some in Texas and stuff like that. I wouldn't have known any of this stuff. So when these kids come out and they talk about their parents publicly, I want people to understand that a lot of these kids, they don't want to do this shit, but it's like what do you call it? It's like a last resort effort to try to get to a result, to try to get their parent to move in a way that they think they need to move. Because unfortunately for a lot of celebrity, the bad publicity may force them to move in a way in which they wouldn't move normally. It's unfortunate that sometimes that bad publicity has to come from inside your house because you got a kid or a child that's unhappy with you because of the way you've treated them, right? So, two things being true at the same time. Monique has been aggrieved. Monique has had some bad things happen to her in the industry. Monique has had some bad things happen in her life that have probably shaped the way that she moves in this world right now, right? The other thing that could also be true, Monique might not have been as attentive as a mother as she probably should have been to this particular son. And this particular son has every right to express himself in a way in which he needs to, especially if, people are coming at him and asking him, why you ain't cool with your mama? Especially in the social media age, people come at folks all the time. Why are you not cool with this person? Did you ever fix it with your mama? Like, that's what I'm sure he's probably gotten inundated with that, especially after Club Shay Shay with the millions of views that podcast is now generating on YouTube. I'm sure he's gotten a lot of those questions. And in a way to get around it or get in front of it or however, this was his way of expressing himself and saying, so look, I want to free my mother from having to go on podcasts and say this shit, knowing that it might not necessarily be true. Right? I do hope they are able to reconcile that. I do. I remember when I did my shit with me and Floyd, there were people who would reach out to me, hey man, did you and your dad ever fix it? I'm like, no, it never happened. He's stubborn. He was stubborn. And to some degree, I was stubborn too. We never fixed it. But I do hope at some point that with Shalon Jackson and Monique, that they are able to fix it, that they are able to come together, that they are able to mend those fences, and that when they do, it's a beautiful thing, right? And we'll look back on this like, man, this was just a learning moment. But yeah, man, as this was happening, it was just one of those things where having just some level of understanding of why this sort of thing kind of happens, I felt like I should probably kind of talk a little bit about it. So yeah, you got that going on. But yeah, man, I am about to get on up out of here. I got some partying to do later tonight. But of course, before we get out of here, I do have to remind you guys how to get in touch with us over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and let your voice be heard, man. You can, of course, go ahead and hit us up at our hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave those voicemail messages. Of course, those messages will get played here live on the show and responded to in kind. You can also email us here at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Go ahead and leave us those emails, and of course, those emails will get right here and reply to here live as well. Follow me on Threads and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So go ahead, follow me there. Chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week. Also, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and or Spotify. Those 5-star reviews are the ones that get right here live in the show. We really appreciate everybody who does that. Doesn't cost you a dime, just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and the Spann Report Podcast Network in its entirety. Also, if you're listening to us via Spotify, man, hit up those question and answers, man. Hit up those polls. Vote in those polls. Let us know what you're thinking about what we said here on the show, right? Real talk. Also, hit us up on our website at www.thespannreport.com. You can go there. You can buy merch from our website. You can, check out old episodes of the podcast on our website. You can donate to the show as often as you like, as much as you like. And, of course, we really do appreciate every dime over here at the Mr. Spann Official Podcast and the Spann Report Podcast Network in its entirety, man. But, yeah, man, I am about to get on up out of here. I will talk to you guys again soon. But until next time, fam, peace.